Welcome to Real Estate Explained, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass to the ever-evolving world of real estate. I'm your host, Nick Bush, a realtor with over a decade of experience helping clients buy, sell, and invest with confidence. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about the market, this show is for you. Each week, we'll dive into trending topics, break down the latest real estate news, and bring you expert interviews with the pros so you're prepared for every step of the journey. Ready to turn your real estate goals into reality? Keep watching. We in the pod right now, bro. I start the pod cold like Joe Rogan, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
Just because I do an intro video and then, so now we in the pod.
For sure.
Thanks for coming down, bro.
No problem, bro.
You know
Anytime.
what I mean? You came from Bowie just right now, or?
No, I was coming from Anacostia. I was having lunch with some friends over at a new restaurant. It's a Caribbean spot. I can't remember the name, but it's right beside Kitchen Savage. Good spot.
Okay, yeah, I know Kitchen Savage.
Yep, if you're in Anacostia, it's Sylvinios or something like that.
Okay.
Curry chicken. Tell them that Russ sent you.
Tell him, you got the juice out there?
Yeah. My boys, he knows the owner. She was there. Sweet lady.
Yeah.
Great ambiance, good food, affordable prices, all that.
Okay,
yeah,
let's talk about that actually. All right, but I'm here with my guy Russ Carter. You know, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My name is Russell Carter. I'm one of the managing partners of the DMV War Team, and I'm also a top producing realtor in D.C. and Maryland. And lastly, I'm a very good friend of this podcast host, Mr. Nicholas Bush.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Top producer, realtor. You see my man Russ out here crushing. What are you? How much business did you do last year? Like, what were your numbers? And then, what are you guys looking to do this year? What's the projection?
Absolutely. So as a team, we did slightly over about $23 million last year.
Okay.
Of that, about $14 million was my personal production.
Oh, wow.
My goal every year is about $20 million. I set a big goal for myself. The closest I got to that was about $17 million when the market was really hot. But as a team, our target is about $40 million.
Yeah. 14 million, bro. You getting money, bro.
Trying, man. Trying to be like you, dog.
You doing it. I'm trying to be like you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And do you feel like the team, like, do y'all niche down in any area?
Yeah, for sure. So we specialize in working with first-time home buyers, specifically ones that are under like about $500,000 in Prince George's County and east of the river, D.C. We also specialize in working with move-up buyers as well. So buyers that are looking to sell their current home and buy something a little bit bigger. That has historically been our two niches.
Yeah, I like the move-up buyers a lot. You were at one point number 2 agent or number 1 agent east of the river?
Not that high. I was at one time about number 6 or number 5 east of the river. And my partner, Rob, is typically about 1 or 2 steps above me. He's like top 3. And I know at one point in time, Keith James was like number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you guys intentionally focus on that market? Like, how did that end up happening east of the river? Or how does that happen, you know?
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I think when I linked up with Rob at the end of 2016, that was already his business model.
Yeah.
And I kind of inherited it. But if I'm thinking about your question, how that happens is that when you work with first-time home buyers, especially ones using first-time home buying programs, historically that has limited them to like under $500,000, $600,000 in purchase price. So if they want to buy a house, typically they're going to be buying east of the river because that's where the market for those type of homes are.
Yeah. How do you feel about east? We're gonna talk about. We're gonna go into east of the river rabbit hole because obviously we own our house east of the river.
Yeah.
I tried to sell it last year.
Yeah.
It did not sell, bro.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Barely any showings, and I guess I have my own theory for that. Why that happened, I'll tell you. But we have a tenant in there now.
Right.
We're about to re-sign a lease for another 6 months with hopes that HPAP comes back towards the end of the year, and we can sell it. You know. But how do you feel about east of the river? Just loaded question. Like, what is your east of the river opinion? Like, how are you feeling about the market and everything down there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, the market east of the river is relatively soft compared to how I've seen it in previous years. Primarily, I think that's because of 2 reasons. One, they changed the HPAP program last year, so it's a lottery process, and that's limit the amount of buyers that's in the market east of the river. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is obviously the interest rates, right? The interest rates has limited a lot of buyers from being able to purchase, because typically the folks that are buying east of the river are in a lower to moderate income bracket, and they're very affected by the changes in interest rates. So that's why I think the market there is pretty soft, but still a great time to buy, bro. There's a lot of good inventory out there, and especially with everything that's been going on in DC and in the market, a lot of buyers have shied away from the market. So as a buyer, what I'm advising my folks is that this is the perfect time to get in and grab an opportunity.
Okay. So, when I actually comped out my house last year, I hit you up and I was like, Russ, I'm seeing 625.
Yeah.
And that's what the math is saying, but I don't know if I believe that. Can you comp this out? And you were like, nah, bro, I think you actually were like, I think you go 635, right?
Yeah, bro.
And I think I listed at 625. And at one point, we were just like, we want to sell this house. We want to get over it. And we dropped to 550.
Right.
And it still wasn't hitting. Still didn't sell. And so I thought to myself, I said, okay, why is this happening?
Right.
I said, well, one reason is my kitchen is very custom.
Hands down. Beautiful kitchen, by the way, Nick.
Thank you.
Kitchen. Yeah.
Thank you. But it's very custom. So maybe a buyer walks in and they say, well, this is not our flavor, so we're going to have to renovate the kitchen. I was getting a lot of feedback about this feels like a major renovation, And so I had that feedback. Then I said, well, HPAP isn't funding right now. And so that $202,000 that somebody can put down on 600 is gone. And I hate to feel like this about East of the River, because that's, our people. And we know it gentrified a little bit, but I'm like, okay, 625 right now is $4,000 a month, right? So I'm like, does a couple that makes $4,000 a month that can afford a $4,000 a month mortgage? This is a $300,000 household, basically, $250,000 household. Do they want to live east of the river? And I felt like maybe they don't, And I think those are some of the reasons we didn't sell.
Yeah, and there's a few things that's in that, and I've been dealing with this a lot, especially with my seller clients east of the river. Last year, there were two things that I noticed that were very important in terms of selling a home everywhere, but specifically east of the river. One is timing, right?
Okay.
The timing is so important. And whether it's peak season or off-peak season, it doesn't matter, but it's just the timing when that right buyer comes around. And what I mean by that is that we had a property that was over in Deanwood that we had listed for, let's say, $450,000, right? Set on the market 120 days, right? Wow. Typically, a seller would have did price adjustments and then, dropped the price, and then it probably would have moved. This particular seller kept the price at $450,000 because they didn't have the motivation to drop it, and we end up getting a buyer at $450,000, right? So it was just the right timing. Also, like I mentioned earlier, the motivation, right? What's the seller's motivation? So you and your wife may say, hey, we could sit on this price for 2 years because, we have a small mortgage or whatever the case may be. Or you may be in a tough spot where you have to sell it now, which means that you're forced to drop down the price. So now more than ever, specifically east of the river, the timing of when you list a property and the motivation of the seller or the buyer is very, very important.
So from a timing standpoint, in that market specifically, where do you feel, what are the best months? Like, what have you been seeing, like the best months or the best times of the year to kind of move your property?
Absolutely. Still the spring and summer, hands down. Down. That's still the best time to sell your property. But you also have these little hyper-local factors that could affect the property selling. For example, east of the river, the HPAP funding typically comes out in October, November, right? So you could see an uptick in transactions after the peak season's over, right? So in the spring and the summertime, it's the best time to sell, but it's also typically when the most inventory is available. So the buyers have a lot more choices in the spring and the summertime. And then the fall and the wintertime, they may have less choices, but they have more buyers that are out in the market because of programs like HPAP and things like that.
And so when we listed our house, we didn't stage.
Right.
And I think we should have staged. Do you feel like in that market, the staging is important, or you can kind of get your property off more as is?
Yeah, so as a listing agent, I've historically been against staging.
Oh, really?
I've historically been against staging, only because I feel like staging is very expensive, right?
Yeah.
But over the past 6 months, I've been made a believer because looking at the data, properties that are staged typically sell like 2 to 3 times faster.
Yeah.
So I am becoming an advocate of staging. But I think it depends on your budget. I also think, like you said, to your question, it depends on the market as well. Do the buyers care about staging? Because I've been on property tours as you have, and some clients are like, I hate the fact that this property is staged.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see a blank canvas. Or you have other buyers that want to see the property completely staged so they can kind of see where they would place their furniture and things like that.
Yeah, I had I was not a big stager from a budget standpoint because I was at the beginning of my career. I was working with a lot of first-time home buyers, and my listing sales price was also lower, and so people just didn't have the $3,000 to $5,000 to invest into staging.
Yeah, 100%.
And so what I was doing was a lot of digital staging. You know,
virtual, yeah.
primarily with condos, but some townhouses also. So I was doing a lot of digital staging. And then I met a stager, Jen Cook, shouts to her.
Okay.
They do a really great job.
Absolutely.
And I think her company's Phoenix Staging and Design. And I invited her on the podcast, and she's like, digital staging is BS.
Oh, yeah.
And I got her to stage a few houses for me, and I'm walking in like, oh, this feels totally different. There's a vibe in here.
Yeah.
And so I sold a condo in Arlington last week, and this is a client that we've done like 3 or 4 deals with. And she's like, hey, do you think we can get away without the staging? And I walked in. At first I said, yeah. And then I walked back in and I was like, we got to stage. So she ended up spending the $3,000 and it went under contract in 3 days.
Wow.
And then I walked in eventually to like meet the appraiser, and I saw it staged, totally different vibe.
Wow.
And so I'm a big believer in staging. And
Yeah.
I think that the 2 most important things that a seller can do in their house, aside from like a total renovation, not a kitchen bathroom update,
Right.
is paint and stage.
Oh, yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also just like all agents are not created equally, all stagers aren't created equally as well. So to Jen and to my stager, Giovanni, I think that finding a good quality stager, bro, like you said, can make or break a deal.
Yeah. Jen told me that my house didn't sell because she didn't stage it. And now I think we're going to sell at the end of this year maybe. But so you was hanging out in Anacostia yesterday?
Today.
Today you in Anacostia?
Yeah, I'm going to be there tomorrow. Like, I'm in Anacostia area or east of the river 4 or 5 times a week.
Vibing, doing your thing.
Hands down.
So I actually have been down on, the development down there from a retail standpoint.
Okay.
But you just, hit a nice restaurant, you vibing.
Yeah.
What do you think about the development? This is what I feel like. I feel like Anacostia got really hot.
Yeah.
And it was popping. And there was there was development, there was plans, people were moving down there, and then it cooled down a lot.
Really? Okay.
But I could be wrong. You top 10 down there.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the development, of the retail in Anacostia?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on, just not in Anacostia, but just east of the river in general. But a lot of these projects are super big projects, Nick, and they have to go through a lot of red tape just with the hospital that's opening up or just opened up over at St. Elizabeth, the first hotel that's east of the river. They just put a brand new apartment building like right there at the Frederick Douglass Bridge. I think they're calling it like the Bridge District or something like that.
Okay.
But there's still a lot of development going on. But these are big, long-term capital projects. Some of them are sponsored by the district as well. But I'm kind of liking the development that I'm seeing currently. Still not at the pace that I would like to see it at, especially, like you said, with the retail scene and the grocery store scene and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking for the district to invest in that a little bit more. But compared to 2016, when I first got into the business, it's been exponential growth, hands down.
Okay, so it's still solid. So if you were me and Lauren, would you sell this house,
Right.
or would you hold this house?
I would probably hold for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Right. I would probably hold for the reasons that we mentioned earlier. The market is still a little soft. We know that the interest rates are kind of depressing a lot of buyers. So I would probably hold until the market picks up just a little bit more.
That's
Hands
what I
down.
think too. Yeah, I think if we go to 5, I think if HPAP comes back or if rates go to 5%, then we can shoot. But
Hands down.
we did a 6-month lease just to stay flexible.
Hands down, bro. And if I could buy a property east of the river, like if circumstance were a little bit different, I would probably move east of the river, move to Hillcrest, Fort
Yeah.
DuPont, Penn Branch, somewhere like that. because you still can benefit from some of the other amenities like at Navy Yard and Capitol Hill and places like that. They got a nice Whole Foods over at Navy Yard now.
Yeah.
So, and it's not too far. It's only like 12 minutes away.
Yeah. So first-time home buyers, you're in that space.
Yeah.
I'm working with a lot of move-up buyers right now, and so I want to talk to you about that. But why are you still working with, not why are you still working with first-time home buyers, but how, I know that you guys do a lot of rentals.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if that's how you parlay into first-time home buyers or if you're attacking them in a different way. But how did that become so much of the business, and like why do you feel like that's still something you're working with? 'Cause I kind of moved away a little bit from the first-time home buyers.
Yeah. So I would say probably 5 years ago, first-time home buyers were like 80% of my business.
Yeah.
Now they're probably closer to about 30% of my business.
Yeah.
And that's primarily because we have a great buyer's agent on our team, Jamal.
He's a beast, bro.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a dog. He's been handling a lot of our first-time home buyer business. But one of our passions and our goals is to educate members of the community. And typically people, specifically first-time home buyers, gravitate towards us because of the education that we provide. So that's how we kind of stayed in that space, even being in year 9, 10 in the business, because we still have that same passion for education. And with a lot of agents, they just don't educate these first-time home buyers well enough on the process. And they need a trusted advisor who can kind of hand walk them through the process so they can make an informed and advised decision. So that's why we've purposely chosen to stay in that space. Even my partner, Rob, he's been in the business 20 or something odd years. He's still working with first-time home buyers, going through the programs, going through the home buying process and things like that, which is really no different consultation than what you would do with a move-up buyer, because you can't discount the fact that that move-up buyer was educated when they first bought that house. So that's why we kind of like that space and we focus in on that space. We also teach the classes for HPAP as well. That keeps us grounded. Like every third Saturday with Marshall Heights Community Center, we're one of the agents that they bring in and teach folks that are going through the programs about the home buying process. And that's one of the biggest benefits that we can provide to members of the district in Maryland. Okay,
that's dope. And then how do you feel like the market, like the climate is for first-time home buyers right now?
In what regard?
Like, are they winning? Is it tough for first-time home buyers? Is there opportunity for them?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. My first-time home buyers have always won. Like when you work with the War Team, you're always going to be in a winning position, except for during that COVID period when it was just super duper.
It was hard for everybody,
it was super duper crazy. But they're winning right now because of the reasons why we mentioned earlier. There's some decent inventory in that under 500 market, and if you are actually in the market, you'll see that there's some opportunity that's out there because the media is kind of portraying that it's a bad time to buy. There's a lot of uncertainty and things like that. So a lot of buyers have shied away from the market, but we're motivating people to go into the market and grab those opportunities because so many people are leaving the market. Like I was texting a client earlier today, he sent me a video of, I think it was Earn Your Leisure or somebody like that, saying like not to buy a house or is it a good time to buy? And then he asked me, was it a good time to buy? I was like, yeah, bro, when you look at it was like I have a listing on Savannah, and when you look at like a 2-mile radius of that property, it was like 20 properties, move-in ready properties on the market under 400,000, right? Under 400,000. Between 2020 and 2023, that was like unheard of. So now the buyers have the pick of the litter because people are shying away from the market. So I'm telling my guys, hey, get in and let's grab an opportunity. So in that regard, I think they're winning. In the regard of their monthly mortgage payments, I think a lot of buyers are taking a payment right now that they may be a little bit uncomfortable with, right? That's higher than what they expected. So the average payment I'm seeing right now for my first-time home buyers is going to be between like $2,500 and $3,200, right? And some of those are, single people household, like it's a one-person household. So I think they're feeling a lot of that payment pressure right now, but outside of that, I think they're still getting good deals.
And do you feel like, have you had any, government people, are you dealing with the government layoffs at all?
Yeah, unfortunately so. So that, we've had at least 5 people that have been and somehow affected by everything going on in Washington right now.
5 people?
Yeah, 5 people, and at least 2 listings of people that have lost their jobs.
So they're not selling anymore?
Yeah. Well, no, they're selling now.
They're selling because they lost their job? Okay.
Yep, they're selling. They're not from D.C. They're from California or Florida. They're going to sell the home that they have here, and they're going to move back to wherever they're from.
Yeah.
But I think that the overall impact of the layoffs is very minimum. I think it's very, 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 very minimum. But just the people that's contacted us has been about 5 people or so.
Yeah. East of the river, Russ on the pod, bro.
Yeah, bro. And the crazy thing is that, like, I've historically, like, focused in east of the river.
Yeah.
But my business has literally exploded, like, in the past 2 years. You know, from, like I said, primarily working with first-time home buyers and being a buyer's agent, always having boots on the ground, to being like 60-40, you know, buyers, sellers, to honestly now having more listings than I do buyers now.
How does that feel?
Bro, it feels so good. Oh my God, bro. You have so much more leverage now because you're not always running. But as they say, new levels, new devils. Now is a different set of issues. Like,
Bronson's like, he likes that.
Yeah. Yeah, new levels, new devils. Now, you know, Mondays and Black Fridays, I have to, you know, update all these sellers and let them know what's, what's going on with their properties. Because I had myself, I got probably close to 10 listings right now. You know, 5 which I've secured in like the past 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
So in our process is that we either update our sellers on Mondays and Fridays, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, well, Nick, I know you know, but when you got to call a couple sellers and let them know why their properties are not selling, you know, it's typically a tough conversation.
Yeah, I update sellers on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Because I let the weekend happen, you know, and then I update on Tuesday, like, hey, this is what went under contract. This is what sold. This is the feedback from all the agents. I try to reach out to agents on Monday.
Yeah.
And then if anything pops on the market Thursday, Friday, I'd be like, hey, this is new. We're also competing against this right here.
100%.
So I have a system for that too. But that is way more enjoyable to do than I think my number one, like, I don't love to show homes anymore. I think there was a time where I was like, yeah, let's go see some houses.
Yeah.
And I could, you know, have that conversation in the house, and I felt like I was valuable.
Right.
And then I more so realized, like, I don't really need to be here for this.
Yeah.
But if I can get somebody who's high level to show a home and be able to have that conversation,
right,
then I'm smooth.
100%, bro.
Yeah. Because I'm more on the list side too. And it's been beautiful. And because you just have more control. Like, I always said it like this, like, from like a pure just like business, the product is I can not that I've ever sold drugs, right? But I compare it to the dope game, right? Cocaine. Right. It's like everybody wants to be the plug,
right? And I do not condone this message.
We're not, but it's like, do I want to be like selling the drugs, right? Or do I want people to come buy the drugs from me, and then they can go and sell it, right? So I look at the real estate market the same way. It's like, well, if the product is the house, I want people to, I'm the demand. I want people to come and, well, I'm the supply. I want people to come and buy the house from me instead of having to, you know, work on the other side of the coin. And I really started to feel like that during COVID.
Right.
Because during COVID, I was like, man, I'm 90% buyer and 10% listing. And now I have, you know, we competing against 20 people.
Yep.
I'm like, I would love to get 20 offers on my listing. And so I have a very sphere-based business, and so luckily those people are starting to move up. Is that how you ended up in the move-up buyer space? Just staying in touch with your first-time home buyers who are trying to buy the second property now?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and having those conversations with our sphere of influence and asking for referrals as well.
Yeah.
That's they typically refer you people that already own homes, right? But I think that, and being in the business, like you said, for a long period of time, for like 9 years or so compared to most agents, and staying in touch, we do a very good job at staying in touch with our past clients and sphere of influence.
Yeah.
I did the math the other day. I think we've represented probably like over 400 people, like, over the time.
Yeah.
And we may have lost maybe 5% of those. Maybe.
So you just stay in touch.
Yeah.
What are you doing, email or just calls? How you stay in touch?
All different types of ways, from emails to phone calls to social media posts to events to gifts, all different types of things that we do. But from my very first year in the business, I was always relentless with reaching out to my past clients at least 4 times a year, right?
Yeah.
And 2 times a year, purely just checking in. Hey, how you doing? I'm checking in on you. The other 2 times, we do the check-in as well, but then we ask for the referral. right?
Oh, okay.
And also on social media, we're always commenting. So even if we're not posting, I was telling my boy Jamal this the other day, is that people may look at your social media and just because they don't necessarily see you post, they think that you're not active on social media, right? And that can be the furthest from the truth. So if it's my client's birthday, if I see them just got a promotion, if it's their wife's birthday, wedding anniversary, honeymoon, whatever the case may be, we're going to comment, like, send an emoji, whatever the case may be. And that's the way that we stay engaged, right? Because that's a very low energy way to stay top of mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that. They think it has to be a post, it has to be this beautiful content. But if you just like somebody's photo or say, I'm sorry that your mom died, happy anniversary, like whatever the case may be, that's one key way to stay top of mind with your sphere of influence.
All right, well I want to ask you some rapid fire questions, but I can't think of any. Bronson, you have any rapid fire real estate questions that you could, like, we need like 3 of them.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Because we did this on Dan's pod one time.
We did this on Dance Pod. What do you think? I have something for Kareem. Kareem's out there, you know, star out there.
You buying any investment properties
Not yet.
in the future?
Yeah, for sure in the
If you were to
future.
buy one, where would you buy one at right now?
Oh, man. If I was to buy a multi-unit building, it would probably either be east of the river or Baltimore.
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 Okay, so how do you feel about landlord-friendly states versus tenant-friendly states?
Oh, that's a great question. Of course, anybody's going to lean towards a more landlord-friendly state, but our secret sauce is to do a very thorough screening process of the tenant, right? Because the landlord-friendly versus the tenant-friendly state is only applicable when you hit a bad situation for real, right? But if you do a good enough job with screening the tenant, like we have over 92, 93% success rate with our tenants. So it's a very small percentage of tenants that we actually have to evict or kick out of a property or they don't pay or something like that. So as long as you do a thorough screening of the tenants, you typically have a good experience. So I would lean more towards somewhere that's landlord friendly, but if I am in an area that's tenant friendly, we just got to do a better job of screening.
Okay. So I was like, do you guys property manage also? Because you do a lot of rentals.
We do not. That's one area that we're not in. Maybe in the next half a decade or so, we'll start to transition over to property management. We just don't have the manpower for it right now. And primarily because we're still scaling up the sales business, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
But we're
Focus
just
on the one thing.
Focus on the one thing, bro.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because our agent business is so hands-off. All we got to do is market the property. As soon as we find a tenant for the landlord, we hand it over to the property manager. But being a property manager...
That you partner with.
Right, that we partner with. Like, Columbia Property Management is really good. Scott Bloom and those guys over in Uline Arena. Also out in Maryland, like you got Tracy Miller with TLM Properties. She's a dog, been in the business for a very long time. But the thing that I like about property management, bro, is that that's mailbox money. You know, you get that 10% of the rent every single month. Yeah. And, if you start managing 50, 100 properties, that starts to add up.
I think when we list our rental, I'm going to let you list it, bro. I'm going to pay for you to list it.
Absolutely.
That RFTA packet, bro, was no bueno, dog.
Yeah.
So.
And there's another guy that I work with. His name is Travis Bonner. Travis is solid. Like, in terms of voucher clients, bro, he has a solid process, man.
He did do some Bama stuff. He called one of my, I was like being slow, and he called my seller.
What?
Like, he found my seller and called him. It was whack. But shouts to Travis. I know he does a good job. I know his name, so I know he does a good job.
Travis is who probably, if we probably find the tenant for maybe, let's say, like 60, 70% of our rentals. If it's not us, it's typically going to be him. Right, he has a solid process for screening them, for the RTA, for the application. He makes our job so much easier. Okay. So, that's why we like working with those type of guys. But yeah, man, if you need us to list it, bro, just give us a call.
Okay. And then I'm gonna ask you this question the right way, because I always ask people this question, but I felt like it was not worded beautifully. And so then I asked ChatGPT to rephrase the question.
ChatGPT.
And they crushed.
Everybody loves Chat.
Kareem, I'm gonna ask you this question also.
I actually got the Plus service with ChatGPT.
You got the Plus?
Yeah.
I think I'm Plus, yeah.
Nick, I was waiting for you to invite me on the pod too, bro.
Were you?
Yeah, I was waiting, bro.
I didn't know, bro.
I was waiting. I wasn't going to say anything, I was waiting to do your thing. I was waiting.
You were waiting for me waiting for the invite?
Yeah, bro.
You know I was going to get you on here, bro.
I knew you were. I was waiting for the call.
But now we're shooting Fairfax, not DC, so I'm like, is he going? You know, I try to make it convenient also.
I was sick, bro. Like when I saw Fairfax, I was like, oh my God.
I knew you would be. Yeah.
Nah, bro, it's all good.
All right, so we wrapping up. This is the last question of the pod.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna read it straight from ChatGPT. And when I interview Kareem, we got my man Kareem out there who's an agent. He's coming on next. So I keep referencing him.
Sure.
This is how ChatGPT wrote it up.
Okay,
So let's respect the platform.
Okay.
Because I'm supposed to like transition into it. You know what I'm saying? As we wrap up, I can't even be serious.
Right, yeah.
It's simple though. As we wrap up, what's the one critical actionable piece of advice you would offer to home buyers and sellers navigating today's real estate market? Hold on, because I could read, bro, and that made me look like I can't read.
Right, but that gives me some.
What's the one critical actionable piece of advice you would offer to home buyers and sellers navigating today's real estate market?
That's a great question. The one critical piece of advice that I would say is just stay current on the market, right? Monitor the market, listen to the news, follow the interest rates, look at the inventory that's in your market, stay current on the down payment programs, the development that's going on in your communities or your city. You got to stay abreast on the news, whether you're a buyer or a seller, to know what's going on in the market.
Solid. All right, man. Any last words you want to get off? Anything you want to tell the people? How can they find you also?
Yeah, so you can find me online, any other online platforms. You can go to our website, www.dmvwarteam.com. I'm also on Instagram at Russ Carter 1, and you can reach out to me directly on my cell at 202-500-5720, or you can always contact Nick. Nick has a direct line on me, my wife. He's been to my crib, and I just want to say that Nick is crushing it with his podcast.
Thanks,
One of the
bro.
best podcasts is out there in the area right now, man. If you're not logged into this podcast, you're definitely losing out. A lot of great information, a lot of great guests, and I'm so thankful for him having me today.
Appreciate you, bro. And by the way, Russ is my Maryland referral agent. So
Sure.
I'm not licensed in Maryland. Russ is.
Yeah.
And any Maryland client I've given to Russ, they've crushed it every time.
Slam dunk.
Yeah. So if you see online, I'm licensed DC and VA, you want to buy in Maryland, hit me up, because then Russ is going to do the deal.
Yep, and Nick's my Virginia guy. You know, he's my guy in general, you know. So Nick's, you know, like I've been to his house. He's been to my house. Our wives know each other. Kids play together, all that kind of stuff like that. So thank you so much, bro.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you.